All right, today we're going to dive into a really interesting set of traditional practices for enhancing fertility. We're going to break down the key steps and the thinking behind them from a popular video by a creator named Menna. She shares a pretty unique, holistic take on how to support the body's natural processes. Now, just a heads up, this is simply an explainer of her advice, not medical advice itself. So this quote really gets to the heart of Menna's entire philosophy. It's all about personal agency. Her core belief is that you can play an active, powerful role in your own fertility and womb health through your actions, your diet, and your hygiene. It really frames the whole journey as one of empowerment, of taking back control. So where do you even start with all this? Well, according to the source material, it's not about some single magic recipe. Nope. It's about building a solid foundation. It all begins with the choices you make every single day, way before you start thinking about any specific treatments. And a huge piece of that foundation, diet. Menna makes a really interesting point here. She says age isn't the only thing that matters when it comes to egg quality. For example, she suggests that a woman in her 40s who eats a healthy home-cooked diet might actually have a better outcome than a younger woman who's eating a lot of processed, high-fat foods. The idea is simple. What you eat is directly feeding your reproductive system. So what's the whole point of all the advice we're about to get into? It really boils down to this. The main goal is to cleanse the uterus and activate the ovaries. You're trying to create the perfect environment, clean, warm, and receptive, for healthy, mature eggs to develop. So let's see how that process actually kicks off. Okay, so the whole process is broken down into phases, and it all starts with the menstrual cycle itself. In this view, your period isn't just a passive time. It's actually a really active phase for cleansing the uterus and starting to wake up the ovaries for the cycle that's coming up. So how do you do that? To get this cleansing and activation going, Menna suggests drinking a variety of hot herbal beverages every day, all through your period. We're talking about things like fennel, thyme, sage, and black seed. Traditionally, these are all believed to help warm and cleanse the uterus, basically setting the stage for ovulation. And, just to add a little touch of real life from the source video, there's this great moment where Menna's son Ollie interrupts her to ask for gum. It's just a small, funny reminder of the real life happening in the background of all this advice. All right, so once the period ends, the focus shifts, and things get a bit more intensive. We're moving into a two-part regimen. This is where the really specific activation techniques come into play, and they're designed to directly stimulate the ovaries. Now, the first key player in this phase is the humble garlic clove. In this tradition, garlic isn't just for cooking. It's seen as a really powerful tool. Its whole purpose, as she describes it, is to generate heat in the ovaries, which is believed to be absolutely essential for kicking off the ovulation process. So this is a very specific protocol. You follow it for 2 days in a row, right after your period ends. Step 1, you take 1 garlic clove by mouth on an empty stomach. Step 2, on those same 2 days, you use 1 as a suppository. And then you follow that up with another traditional recipe that involves shihe, which is also known as wormwood and onion. And this is super important. Alongside all these internal recipes, there is a huge emphasis on external hygiene. This is seen as just as crucial to the whole cleansing process. For instance, she specifically mentions changing sanitary pads really frequently, like every 3 to 5 hours, to help prevent any issues and just maintain a really healthy environment down there. Okay, this brings us to our final section, and it might be the most important piece of the puzzle: timing. The source really stresses that doing each step at the right time is absolutely crucial for this whole process to be effective. Now, on top of the drinks and the internal recipes, Menna also suggests using herbal rinses. Think of these as an extra layer of support. These external rinses, using herbs like rosemary, lavender, and chamomile, are meant to help create a clean and healthy environment from the outside in. So let's put it all together on a timeline. You start with those hot herbal drinks during your period, let's say days 1 through 7. Then, right after, on days 8 and 9, you do the garlic and onion recipes. Then, and this is key, by day 10, the advice is to stop all of these activation recipes, unless you have a history of weak ovulation. Finally, around days 13 and 14, there's a specific recipe that's suggested as a traditional alternative to what's known as a medical trigger shot, which is used in fertility treatments to induce ovulation. So, if there is one point that Menna makes over and over again, it's this: you have to know the right day for each step. The timing isn't just a suggestion, it is considered absolutely essential to the whole process. The idea is to make sure that each action has its maximum intended effect without getting in the way of the next phase of your cycle. And that brings our breakdown to a close. We've just walked through a pretty detailed traditional system that connects diet, herbs, hygiene, and very specific timing to reproductive health. It's a fascinating look into a set of holistic beliefs. And it kind of leaves us with a big question to think about. How do these kinds of folk traditions and personal health practices fit in with and sometimes differ from our modern medical understanding of the body? It's definitely some food for thought.